And welcome to Netflix and Kill. Ah, yes, I am so ready for this one. For this one, Travis. It's full moon. I can feel it in my blood, and I am ready. And who is ready to talk about some lycanthropy antics with you? It's me and Nick the Merc with a mic, and my fellow unapologists,
Travis,
and
hungry like the wolf. Justin.
How many musical wolf references can we make?
No, I'm confused.
Hold on, I gotta
Were
play
we
this.
watching something else, though?
What am I going to even put in for the musical break on this one? There's just way too many things.
I think it's just something completely off.
Yeah. When the moon hits your eye.
There you go.
But yes, the reason we are talking about crazy moon and wolf stuff is we're talking about American Werewolf in London today. And yeah, it's a very classic film. One that actually I have not watched before. It was one of the rare blank spots in my filmography, so I wanted to definitely take it in. And Travis, I'm assuming this was your first time too?
Yep, never saw it.
So we were all virgins on it. I like the new blood on it. But anyway, it was my film, so I'll describe a little bit of the plot. The plot goes as such. Our two Americans go through the longest title sequence ever.
It's not that long.
No, it's just like nothing
It's such lovely font.
It's lovely. Like, man, they saved fucking their budget on that font, I'll tell you what.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, that's just not in the... But, yeah.
It's the 80s, you know.
You know how they do. But, yeah, these two guys, David and Jack, they are backpacking through Europe. Apparently, they're like they're on vacation. I think it's explained a little bit like they're going to be meeting someone or in another town or whatever. But they're making their way through this small town in England, and they run amok of these locals in this pub called the Slaughtered Lamb.
But there's no lamb anywhere.
There's no lamb. And they walk in, and it's like a western where one of the guys walks in, and just everyone in the fucking bar stops to look. It's like
strangers.
It's like, damn, you almost want a record scratch to go. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they get some food. They
don't.
No, that's right. They order food, but they can't get food, and they're sitting in there waiting for like tea or drinks of some kind. And they listen to some of the antics of the locals. They see a 5-pointed star on the wall, and Jack gets the idea in his head. I should ask what that is, and he asks what it is. The room goes silent, and they basically kick him out after that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Except for the barmaid, who's like, they have to stay here. They cannot leave.
So, yeah, the real problem here is that the two characters are just in the wrong movie. Because the way that situation was going, they could have been, like, crazy locals.
Yeah.
Like, like
cannibals.
a crazy... Yeah, or cannibals or something like that. And then in that case, the line of dialogue, you can't let them leave, takes on a little more sinister and overtone. Like, if I hear that from somebody... I'm going to do my best to try and leave because I don't like that.
Yeah, no, that's got to be a consistent thing about this movie where it's like, it'll have these huge tonal shifts where, the movie starts with these two dweebs just talking about like, yeah, I'm going to screw that girl when I get back kind of thing and all this stuff. And then, you get to this village full of the most evil, creepy villagers ever. They're just like, let them die.
Yeah, it's like, not murder or let it be murder.
Yeah. We keep cutting back and forth once they leave in between the two the groups of like the Jack and David and the pub, because like they keep getting further away, and the pub is just kind of like, well, we should go out and try and do something about it. And it's never really made clear what the werewolf problem is there, because werewolves don't die from they die from just regular bullets in this world.
Yeah. And also, it is never clear why they should keep it a secret, because you'd think if they had told somebody, oh, by the way, there's werewolves, they could have avoided this whole movie from happening.
No, you have to be vague. It's a rule. You have to say, avoid the road, or stay on the roads, avoid the moon.
Well, I thought it was because that there was a couple like werewolves, like there may have been a den of werewolves, like it wouldn't be effective to go out and like hunt them. They had to keep it a secret and just like hope that they go away. But later they say that you need to destroy the last werewolf, and they make a point of telling you that David is supposed to be the last werewolf.
Yeah.
And which I thought it was like the bloodline need to be severed, but I think even at one point the exact dialogue is the last werewolf.
Mm-hmm. Or the last of that bloodline, at least. Like, the direct line that goes down to David.
So maybe there's more, I don't know. But the town...
Who cares?
The town sure seems really bad at this.
Yeah.
It's because it's like, they can't even come up with a convenient lie of like, hey, what's that 5-pointed star that's prominent on the fucking wall with 2 candles around it that looks really creepy? How dare you ask us about that?
Well, that's weird, though, because another scene happens where another person asks that, and they just go, like, oh, it's been here for like 200 years. We don't know.
They make up a pretty, like, a reasonable excuse. Maybe they finally, too many tourists finally died, and they just finally decided, like, man, we should really come up with an excuse so that when people ask us that, we don't make more werewolves.
Yeah, it was weird, too, though, when they point out the 5-pointed star. I mean, first of all, 5-pointed star seems like a very specific thing to say, but also... I guess my head was in the wrong place because I thought the 7-pointed star from Game of Thrones. I'm just like, ooh, are the sparrows going to come in and help with the werewolf problem?
Yeah,
that'd be weird.
Shame, werewolf, shame.
That would have been the best crossover ever. Game of Thrones and the werewolf. Yeah, American Werewolf.
Well, I do like the werewolf attack that happens in the beginning too.
Yeah, they tore up that dude to pieces in that part.
Jack gets fucked up.
And then David runs away.
I love it because David totally deuces out. He's just like, fuck that. And Jack is yelling for help the entire time. Like, help me, oh God, please. There's never once he goes, save yourself, just run. He's like, no, please help, for the love of God, help me. And David runs until he finally remembers, like, oh shit, I think my friend just got eaten. I should run backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't get the hint from, he's killing me!
David, stop running away. I see you over there. Like, I'm gonna haunt you later because of this. I don't know what David was going, like, maybe it was just an instinctual reaction to just run, and then he, like, remembers, like, oh, didn't I have a friend named Jack at some point? Oh, yeah! Like, maybe he just got so scared he forgot everything except for his survival instincts.
Yeah. Or he just decided, like, no, fuck him, I'm gonna leave. Well, maybe I should go back. Maybe he has some money on him.
Mm-hmm. And then he finally gets back, and he sees his super dead friend, and gets attacked by the werewolf himself. The locals come up, shoot the werewolf. He ends up waking up in a hospital 3 weeks later. Because like the movie doesn't have time to show him like slowly transforming, like getting weird werewolf stuff. Like, no, we're just gonna cut to the werewolf part. Like 3 weeks later. And it turns out that the town has continued their bad decisions of just letting him leave and covering it up.
That makes no sense.
That makes so little sense. Even
nothing
to the
in this
point,
movie makes sense.
If you would like to keep a secret of said werewolf and beast stuff, why would you let someone leave when you know that they're going to become a werewolf?
Yeah.
And why keep it secret over just killing him and, fixing the problem?
Oh no, the lunatic killed them both.
Yeah.
With giant...
East Proctor is just evil, apparently.
Yeah, the lunatic killed them with giant claw and bite marks and stuff. Like, how did that even fly either?
They probably had an in with the cops or something.
It sure did seem like the head cop at least was kind of like, because even the dolt cop, which you get, I guess in London you get assigned a dolt cop to you if you're a competent cop.
That's weird.
I think that's a Sherlock rule. You always have to have one really incompetent guy to make the other guy look better.
I guess.
But even the incompetent guy is going like, a lot of this doesn't add up. Mm-hmm. This is seems kind of weird. Or I guess maybe I just don't know.
Maybe he was actually the competent cop the whole time.
Yeah. Anyway, David wakes up. He befriends one of the nurses.
Offers her to go to Stockholm. Oh wait, no, he just gets the syndrome instead.
What's her name? Jenny?
Yeah, like something Price, isn't it?
No, that's the actress's name is Jenny Agutter. The character's name is Nurse Alex Price. That's right.
Okay, that's right.
And Nurse Alex, I actually kind of like Nurse Alex in this one, because she is I like in the beginning of the movie that Jack is kind of like his sweetheart Deborah. And I was like, she will have sex with me. She doesn't have a choice. And I'm like, wow, that was pretty. That didn't age well.
No.
Some cute antics about really misogynistic sexual assault. But then Alex, Nurse Price comes in and it's kind of like just straight up like it. I'm not sure if she's like really hitting on David or whatever, but like, you need to eat, so I'm going to sexually feed you.
Yeah.
Okay. Seems a little forceful. And then basically just kind of invites him to stay over later, and then later it's like, oh, well, there's like only one bed, and I'm like, and then David's like, well, I was like, well, do you think she'd have two beds? Obviously, you'd be sleeping on the couch. Like, what? Like, have you ever slept at somebody else's place before?
Right.
But then no, Nurse Alex is like, I'll tell you what. I've only had a couple of lovers in my life, 7 lovers, and I'm totally digging on you. So how about you watch some telly while I take a shower, and we'll just share the bed. And I'm just like, oh, all right, cool. Like,
yeah, although that seems like a really bad decision all around, because like she's seen that he's clearly mentally unwell this whole entire time, because he keeps talking about, I think it might be a werewolf, and my dead friend keeps talking to me. She's like, oh, that's nice. Want to come sleep with me? I feel like as a nurse, you probably should not do that.
Well, look, let's not get it twisted. David's pretty good looking. He's a good looking dude.
I would say he's kind of good looking by maybe 80 standards, but for some reason I just got the image of like David Schwimmer looking at him, just like in his voice and his big nose and curly hair. Like I'm just like, I just can't see him as being an attractive man the way they want to sell him this movie.
No, he's affable. He's likable. You like him, or at least I do.
David Schwimmer crossed with Bob Saget. That's what I got.
Wow. Okay. I don't know if I go at him that hard, but
I mean, cut the guy some slack.
No.
Yeah, I did like their relationship, even though it accelerates on like
it's like 2 days, and they're like, "I love you." Okay, fine.
Even she's kind of surprised by it. Just
it might be a little bit longer than that if you count the hospital time. It looked like there was a couple days, at least in the hospital, where he was conscious. I don't know.
Okay, a week.
Maybe there's some werewolf pheromones going on. I don't know. We get some other characters, like the other nurse that basically sneaks peeks at her patients' dicks, which while they're sleeping. So that's nice.
Yeah.
I just like that. It was like, oh, so what do you think? He's American? Yeah, and probably Jewish and probably Jewish. Like, why would you say that? I snuck a peek. And I'm like, oh, you're supposed to be a professional.
Yeah.
But and then we're supposed to like not like the doctor when he comes in and kind of scolds her. I'm like, nah, she kind of deserved a little scolding. Like,
yeah, well, he kind of scolded her for different reasons.
Yeah, I mean,
like, don't you have a function around here? It's like.
Well, I think I like to think of that one was just like, don't you have something to do here that's not looking at patients' dicks? Why don't you go do that? But then like he does go to Nurse Alex, like, here, don't you have rounds to make? Yeah, fuck off.
Yeah.
But I do like it because he becomes kind of a surrogate, sort of hero by the end of this.
Well, he's like the only person to go like, hey, this is kind of weird. Like 4 weeks later, but whatever.
Yeah, I can't believe it took him that long to investigate any of this stuff.
Well, it just, like, it doesn't take more than a second glance to go and just, like, man, this doesn't make a lot of sense. No. This story that they're trying to sell is not making a lot of sense to me.
Well, seriously, you get someone to come to the hospital, they are wounded, but the wounds have been fully cleaned, and they go like, alright, he's just in a comatose state, can you take care of him? You go like, yeah, sure, what happened? He was attacked by a lunatic. Okay, cool.
Okay.
I mean, to be fair, they had the body of the lunatic. They showed it. It's like, yeah, we can't prove that he was a wolf.
Yeah, we also had lacerations across corpse
and a half-eaten Jack.
Yeah.
Well, okay, yeah. The harder thing we need to prove is the fact that no one questioned how this dude got smashed and torn and ripped and gored.
Right.
But it's like, oh yeah, dude did that with his bare hands. I'm like,
Because crazy strength, guys. Crazy strength gives you claws.
And apparently people are just like, okay, sure, yeah, we buy that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, it would be rude to question otherwise, and if I know anything from Londonites in this movie is that they don't want to be rude.
No.
Yeah, no, this is having lived in London, this is a very caricatured look at, like, 80s London. Just, like, it feels like every type that you would see in an old British movie is present in this. You know, the prim and proper types and the, you know, the low-life country types and that kind of stuff. It's, yeah, can't really relate to them very well in this movie.
Yeah, well, the thing that I do like about this movie is that it does bring Jack back. And I actually like those segments a lot where Jack comes back and kind of fucks with his friend.
Yeah, those parts were good.
Hey, he only tells him to kill himself. It's not that big a deal.
And they have such casual conversation, just like, oh yeah, suicide, you know, it's not so bad.
Listen, buddy, Bubala, what I need for you to do is just take that knife, cut across your wrist, and end this whole thing, alright? I mean, I don't like being this corpse. Look at me, I'm decaying every time I show up, which is a pretty good practical effect that I like. And another thing about this movie is that the practical effect work is just fantastic.
It's definitely the best part about this movie.
Yeah, it's Oscar-winning effects, and it's Rick Baker, who's one of the greatest makeup designers ever. So, yeah.
Well, even this film won the first award for makeup artists, I believe. Well, the first year it was actually a category. It actually won it. Well deserved, by the way. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about the werewolf sequence, the werewolf transformation sequence in a minute. But I did want to talk about Jack for just one more thing. And Jack, when he first shows up, his first like fresh kill look. Where he's got like flesh hanging off his neck.
And it moves around.
Yeah, it is. It's like
undead jowls.
Yeah, and the thing is that it like that hanging chat of skin does like it jiggles and stuff, and it's like, whoa, that is like really impressive makeup work, and it's just it's really fantastic. And David just thinks he's dreaming the whole time, and you can't really blame him because he's having weird fucking dreams about, you know, Nazi werewolves.
Yeah, murdering people with machine guns.
What the fuck was that?
It made no sense, and it has nothing to do with anything in this movie. It was just... I feel like I really want to go off on that part here, but I'm going to let you use your time first, Nick. Sure.
Well, I think my only thing is that why did it have to happen during the Muppet Show? Like, okay, look. Okay, so... If we want to get into, like, the logic of dreams, like, you know, yeah, sometimes dreams happen like that, to where shit just, like, super weird happens, and it only tangentially relates to anything that's happening in your life.
I think I scolded a scorpion for eating a plastic spider the other night.
Yeah?
Yeah, that happened.
So, I get the dream logic of it, but Justin is right in that it does not serve, like, the other dreams at least serve a function of just, like, you know, first person, I'm becoming a wolf, you know, I'm in a hospital bed in the woods, and I kind of half transform to attack the nurse that I kind of like.
I eat a deer, and I'm not hungry later on.
Yeah, there's foreshadowing, there's meaning behind it, like, you get it, like, okay, yeah, but then, like, this Nazi werewolf thing happens, and you're just like, what the fuck? Like, what is this trying to tell me?
Well, the only thing I could gather from it is that, one, because the guy's Jewish, clearly it's like, oh, what scares Jewish people? Nazis. And what's scarier than a Nazi? Nazi werewolves. But the second thing, too, is that it's that whole thing, because for those who don't know, John Landis directed this movie, and it's the guy behind Animal House and Blues Brothers. And, you know, like I said, with the caricatures of the Brits, he's really trying to play hard on this whole caricature element of like, oh yeah, well, you know, the Jewish guys are afraid of Nazis. The British guy, the British talk about tea time and that kind of stuff. It only served to play the joke. And even then, there's the fake out dream, where it's like, oh, he wakes up from a dream into another dream.
Aha.
And it's only served a purpose of the writers and the director to play trick on the audience. Like, it didn't actually benefit the story at all. It's just like, gotcha! You thought you were awake, didn't you, audience? Ha ha!
Yeah, it did have that, like, fake out dream sequence thing that, like, it reminded me of, like, the more recent films that have done that, like, you know, Batman v Superman, of at least Flash didn't show up in it, like, I gotta tell you, Bruce, oh shit, wrong timeline, and then fucked off.
He might as well.
But yeah, I I did like his reaction when he first woke up after the second dream. He was like, "Shit, Jesus,
Fuck."
Like, I did like that reaction, and I do like how the casualness of swearing and just the way they speak in this film of just like, okay, I don't believe you're here. I'm crazy, and you're a meatloaf or whatever he calls Jack.
That's what he calls him.
I am super sorry about that. I did
He
not mean
apologized
that.
later, like, I'm sorry for calling you a meatloaf.
Yeah, I think that even when they screened this movie for television, they had to change certain words and stuff.
Oh, I'm sure.
Well,
Well,
so
because they
it's-
dropped the C-bomb at one point in this movie.
well, yeah, like they even say like, and then he says during that sequence, he says, "I'm a fucking werewolf for God's sake," but for the TV, I think they subbed it in for, "I'm a famous werewolf for God's sake."
Wow.
Yippee-ki-yay, melon farmer.
Yeah, I miss sometimes. You know what I wished about, like, since we cut the cord, is watching R-rated movies on TV just to see what they sub in, because that is always fun. Fruit you son. But yeah, we actually take a while before we get. We have to see Jack a couple times. We have to build a relationship between David and the nurse, and then we finally get the best scene of this movie, for me, worth the price of admission, which is the werewolf transformation sequence. And oh my god! Now
Can we just point out that it starts really annoying? He just starts, apropos to nothing, he's just reading a book, all of a sudden screams at the top of his lungs.
I just thought he was finally so bored he was just screaming.
Right?
Yeah.
That's kind of how I felt during this movie. But yeah, no, it is kind of weird where he has to be very expository with like, "I'm burning up inside," just in case you couldn't get it from the sweating.
He does exposit quite a bit during
I'm
that
not
scene.
hungry.
I'm still not hungry. Thanks for the update, David. The apartment really appreciates it. The empty apartment. So I do like this sequence beforehand too, where they do play the Bad Moon Rising.
Yes.
Which I feel like, well, that's a little on the nose.
Just a bit.
Yeah, I was not crazy about that
And
part.
then,
'cause-
but I do like the idea of him waiting because he's worried about tonight, the full moon, and he basically has to just kind of wait to see what happens because he's not sure if he's crazy or not. And I do like the idea of the tedium of him just waiting around, not really having anything to do,
Right.
and just
Yeah.
but to stew in kind of his own worry about it. I actually do kind of like that. But then he does, we get the headache, and then the first thing that transforms is his hand,
That's fucked up.
and it just starts to kind of stretch.
Yep.
And all of this is done practically, by the way. So it starts to stretch. He goes down on all fours. He starts to grow hair. His spine starts to shift and change.
Puberty is such a wonderful thing.
He grows the snout. This whole transformation sequence is just like, I heard that this was like the top tier of werewolf transformations. I want to go beyond that. This is the top tier of any monster transformation I have ever seen on film.
It's like, what, a 30-year-old movie and nothing's actually topped that?
I have not seen anything close to as this fucking cool as this transformation, and how real it looks, and the way
Painful
David
it looks.
the way that he's even acting during it, of just like the constant pain that he must be in transforming, and the horror where he flips over and he looks at himself. That scene where he kind of flips over and he looks like it's like this body horror thing of just Jesus Christ. A really neat fucking sequence that I really enjoy. Like if there's anything you got to watch this movie for, it's that sequence right there. I don't understand why, to Travis's point, like why we haven't seen that level of transformation ever again. I know we switched over to CG transformations more or less.
Yeah.
But you could do like a half and half, like do partial practical and then CG.
Which is
Well,
what
they
they
did-
tried to do in The Wolfman in 2010, but they
Right.
let the CG overtake it, which is funny because the movie, that also won an Oscar for Rick Baker for makeup, but it's like, well, yeah, but his makeup's barely seen in the movie.
Yeah, because they let the CG overtakes anything they would have put on it, and if there's anything like in this film that I truly admire is just like how real the that transformation sequence feels, and how the werewolf actually does look. Like I really like the look of the werewolf.
Yeah.
There is some fun stuff where every time he attacks somebody, it does feel like the person doesn't even realize they're being attacked. Like, if you ever notice that where like the werewolf comes in from off screen and the person that's being attacked is like looking off screen, like never looking at the werewolf, going, "Oh God, a giant fuck off wolf."
Which got kind of tedious though, because literally almost every kill is like that, where they're just, okay, I'm wandering in, looking around, oh, that's really weird, ah! And then the next person's like, hey, I'm wandering in, looking around, oh, that's really weird, ah! And it almost every death happens like that for a good, like, 20 minutes.
Well, the thing is that the werewolf's clearly camping, and he's kind of a douche that way.
He's
a spawn
he knows the
camper.
spawn points.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do agree that the kills in this are like, they obviously can only do so much with this werewolf effect, is that they cannot have it on screen very long.
Although I did like the elevator kill. Or escalator, rather, sorry.
The escalator one was pretty neat. The way, like, he's just, because during his first transformation, he's hunting down multiple people. You know, he kills a couple people in the park, he kills some homeless people, and then there's this guy in the subway that's really put off by it too. Like, I'll report this, and he runs through a tunnel which actually has an advertisement for an orgy.
Yes, next Wednesday.
We saw that. It was just like, what, is that an orgy? Like, what does that post say? Like, next Wednesday, an orgy. Join us next Wednesday.
No. It's for the porno film that they're watching later in the movie.
Right. I know, and that's what we noticed later. Was just like, oh my God, it's
we
the
saw a
same
big
porno.
sign. It's like, hey, it's Wednesday.
Look at that.
And it is Wednesday.
And we'll talk about the porno in a minute too, because I was actually really fascinated by that porno movie for whatever reason. But anyway, our guy going through the subway, he falls over in the escalator and kind of just falls onto his back, like looking backwards, and you can kind of see something off screen, and then we see the werewolf come in this wide shot, and I'm like, okay, that was really cool.
Yeah, it's
like,
only for like a split second.
Like, that was effective, because that was really creepy, because this werewolf slowly creeping up as we see it, just like, oh shit, I'm screwed.
Yeah. No, because that scene was actually constructed as a chase scene, where the other ones were just these random attacks. That one actually had, like, tension and progression to the way the kill happened. And that I agree, that was probably my favorite of those kills in the movie. So.
Yeah. I think that if that might have been my favorite kill, except for that I do like Jack's kill in the beginning. Like, Jack just being completely fucked up and screaming.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta say, my most annoying kill was how bad this movie killed my eardrums, like, in every other scene.
Oh, yeah. The sound mixing is all over the place.
It's like, anytime they wanted you to pay attention, they blared the sound. I'm like, oh God, why? Yeah. Like, every single attack is just the loudest thing.
You'll have to forgive it for... This was kind of the... If you watch an 80s film, it depends on the sound mix. If they went back and remastered it. 80s films were all about, like, the sound being the thing that scared you. And just, like, the jump scare. Like, you think, like... some films do that now as well, of just how fucking loud they are in order to scare you.
A lot of films do that now.
But it was a thing back near the 80s, too. Especially if, like, you know, we don't have the effects to show you the werewolves to get you the scare there. So we're going to just have a big sound happen, big snarl, and or the big musical chun happen. Oh my God, I'm looking at the trivia right now. This is interesting. Frank Oz portrays two roles in this movie. Is actually two characters. Remember Mr. Collins, the guy who comes in to talk to David at the hospital? He is also the voice of Miss Piggy.
Oh, well, yeah, because that's his classic role that he plays. So
yeah, so I did not realize that was Frank Oz. I was just like, man, who is this jerk, and why do I recognize his voice, and why do I feel like he's a horrible, horrible wife for whatever reason? But yeah, he is actually in since Miss Piggy does show up in this film in the TV sequence or whatever. I was like, oh. Like, maybe that's his reason for being there. Because there are a couple characters that I just don't understand their reasons for being here. Like, there's the kids in the sick ward.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that it makes the nurse more of a relatable character, gives her a character thing, but you know, there's the kid that just says can't say anything but no. Mm-hmm. There's the kid that slaps her ass. And I'm like, oh, are they? I thought like when they set him up, I'm like, oh, okay, well, he'll attack the hospital where she's at, and then she'll have to save the kids or something, right? And no, that didn't really happen.
Nah.
And there's a couple other characters too where they like. I mean, the doctor, he shows up, and you figure like, oh, he's trying to solve this mystery, and it's like, okay, well, he'll be really integral into the third act later when we have to, hunt down Dave. Not really. Mm-mm. His job was to basically to go back to the town and get some exposition there as well.
Well, he didn't even learn anything in that.
Well, he learns stuff, but he doesn't learn anything that the audience doesn't already know.
Right.
Unless you have never seen a werewolf movie before, he doesn't really learn anything that you don't already know.
No, and this movie presumes that you have watched a lot of horror movies before it, because it does a lot of like wink and nudge movie references and playing on the expectations. Like even the whole thing where they're like, "Oh, so do I need a silver bullet to kill me?" Pfft, no, what do you think?
That's dumb. Why would you even think that? I don't know.
I know. I was just like, "Oh, come on, guys! Don't be mean to the audience like that."
Well, then I was just wondering, like, this doctor, if he's not going to be our Dr. Loomis or something, or just the guy who saves the day at the end, and he visits the town. Like, I'm like, okay, will the town get their comeuppance at the end, or like what does this have to like? What is this accomplishing? What is this scene accomplishing right now, other than going back to the town and showing them being creepy to a Londonite rather than an American,
right?
Yeah. And yeah, because it's like, well, it furthers the mystery of I'm like, what mystery? Jack shows up like 25 minutes in and says, "You're a fucking werewolf." Yeah. Like, there is no mystery to this movie.
I guess there could have been mystery because they said like, oh well, he's not actually a werewolf. He just thinks he's a werewolf because of trauma. Like,
sure,
that could have been a thing.
I don't know. I found that very weird. Like, I'm just like, is this a misdirect? Is this just killing time so that we're feature length and we don't have enough in the budget to do too many more werewolf attacks?
I think that's exactly why they did it. Like, just oof.
This film does seem to kind of end out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. Now that I think about it,
I gotta say something about that too, because I mean, this movie. I'm not gonna hide it from you people. I was not a fan of this movie. I really did not care for it much at all, to be honest.
I got that feeling.
Yes, I know. If you've seen my Facebook post, you know my feelings on it. But the part that angered me the most was that ending. Because after everything that happened, where I'm like, okay, I can forgive this movie. It at least ends on a good note. Or at least, does something mildly interesting. And the way it ends is the most anticlimactic thing I've seen in, like, years. Where I'm just like, that's it? That's all we get after sitting through an hour and a half of this movie?
Yeah, and we will get into that in a quick spoiler talk, which I do want to talk about. I'm looking at the trivia again here. The nightmare with the Nazi werewolves apparently confused audiences and led to some walkouts. So apparently we're not the only ones that found it very disconcerting, apparently. But yeah, I think most people remember this film for its practical effects, and just kind of like this. You know what? I would really like to watch this movie at a drive-in.
Yeah.
That would be really fucking... Like, this is totally a drive-in feel movie where it's like...
Oh, yeah.
It's only an hour and a half long. Mm-hmm. There's not a whole... Like, you can follow the story no matter how much you make out during it.
The sound wouldn't be as bothersome.
Yeah. I think that this film as a straight-up kind of just pure, like, visceral horror kind of experience with the practical effects and... It's kind of very simple story structure. I can see why it has this kind of cult status. Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, it's. I mean, I have things that have been like, yeah, this doesn't make a lot of sense, but I was impressed with just how the way things looked, the way things were shot, at least up until the end where they had to hide some werewolf stuff. I do like the acting in it. I like David and Jack as these buddy characters that I'm like, I'm glad that they got to be buddies even after Jack dies.
Yeah.
That's fun. I like that because I like their chemistry and their relationship. But yeah, I guess that there are just things holding this movie back from being like a you know, I think if you'd watch it now with modern sensibilities, I don't think it's not like you wouldn't get anything out of it, because like I said, you got to give it up for that, you know, practical work, and there's just some solid you know, tension scenes in here. But I think with how the story is structured, well, then again, now with horror movies nowadays, with how some of them are written, this is actually on the better tier of that. But yeah, it's not. I guess it's not supposed to be really about that. So I'll tell you what. I actually really did enjoy this film from a just from a technical aspect of just like, wow, this really looks really cool, especially for early '80s, like '81. It's just super impressive. I like David. I get his struggle. I actually feel it off of his acting. If anything, I just feel like there's just weird decisions of things they like, rather than a Nazi werewolf sequence, maybe just one more sequence of David trying to like come to grips with the fact that he's becoming this monster, or another him and Jack scene, or another scene with him and the nurse, or something that has something to do with the plot rather than Nazi werewolves.
Yeah.
Plus maybe a scene just the nurse kind of asking herself, do I want to bring this potentially crazy person home with me?
Yeah. Well, I think we've kind of shared our feelings mostly on it. If you guys want to go into some final thoughts and some ratings, we can do that. Justin, I want to hear what you got to go first. What do you overall think of this film?
Here we go.
I was bored listless through a whole chunk of this movie. I mean, okay, let me just say this. First of all, I mean, I get that there's good chemistry between these two actors, and I like the decision to cast unknowns, because they originally were going to pick some other people who were bigger stars at the time. They're like, no, it would make more sense to have two schmoes doing this movie. But the whole time, they feel like characters from an Animal House movie. Like, they don't feel like they fit in this horror scenario at all. And honestly, I mean, I get that you like David and that stuff. I just found David to be a huge wang throughout this movie. He's, you know, again, the whole thing where it's like, oh yeah, when I'm going to go meet Debbie, I'm going to screw her brains out and kind of stuff. And then the way
that was Jack.
No, that was Jack.
Jack was the douchebag.
He's complicit with it, at least. You know, just like, oh yeah, man.
He's guilty by association.
He is. And the way that his relationship with Price, I never bought that at all. I'm just like, so they like each other because she finds him cute and she's just a hot nurse. So apparently he just has a whole thing for that. I guess
I liked it when it was just kind of like, we like each other. I mean, later when it's like, I love you, I'm kind of like, okay, I have a hard time buying that.
Well,
but
and even then they said like you can only be killed by someone that you love. But
yeah, that was dumb.
Yeah, that doesn't even play in anything. But then I just gotta say too, this movie, again, the big problem I have with it is that it's so scatterbrained and so tonally incongruent with itself. Where it's like, it'll do scenes where there's the big Nazi werewolf thing, and then it'll have a big sex scene, and then it'll do a random scary part, and then it'll go to another comedy bit. It never seemed to flow at all, and it's not edited well enough to do so. Because there'll just be these awkward cuts to like the dream sequences where it's like, oh, I guess we're in a dream sequence now. And it's over. And then it'll just... it just, on a filmmaking level, it bugged me. Because otherwise, it's slickly produced on a visual level. Like, it just looks good, just like any John Landis film does. But I was never scared. Like, other than just my eardrums bleeding whenever the werewolf started screaming at me. But I found myself just kind of bored. And to the point when it finally gets to the third act, and then you're like, okay, they saved up all the rest of their budget for this big attack scene that happens in the middle of a porno theater, which, again, right before this big scary part happens, we get this parody porno flick in the background for no reason. Just like... That just seems odd that they would watch a porno that's making fun of itself while this very serious horror film is happening in the foreground. But...
I'm not going to lie, I liked it. I thought it was funny.
It would have been funnier in a movie that wasn't trying to be a horror film. But I don't know if this film even thought it was a horror film. I think John Landis and his crew just had some ideas like, we want to make a horror movie with werewolves, and we want this stuff to happen. And then they wrote a movie around it. You know, just that old kind of style of like selling the trailer before you actually have a movie planned. So, I mean, other than the fact that, yes, it had a couple decent-looking parts, had a nice soundtrack that, you know, it's good songs, classic music from the 80s, and it I don't know, I really have nothing much to say. I was not thrilled with this one, and I get its legacy. It was a huge commercial hit. Everyone was riding high off of Blues Brothers and these films he'd done before, but I just don't feel like this movie holds up very well. It's not really scary. It's not really funny. It's just kind of it's a technical exercise more than anything else. So I'm gonna give it 5 Americans stealing balloons from little British kids out of 10.
Travis, what about you?
Well, that's actually a surprisingly higher rating than I expected him to give based off of all the complaints.
I know. I didn't hate it enough to be angry, but I was just kind of like, throughout it.
Because the thing is, I actually do agree with a lot of the things you've said. Like, the sound design is very bad. So many of the scenes, like, the scene with the children, like, and their dog, that just seemed random, like, not necessary at all.
Yeah.
And there's just a few too many scenes like that in this movie where, like, you were obviously stretching for time. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay,
and it's a short movie. It's only like 80 minutes.
Right. So, overall, but I kind of went into this movie, I didn't even think of it as a horror movie. It seemed more like a werewolf parody than an actual werewolf movie itself, which is kind of sad considering it has the best werewolf transformation I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But, I don't know. There's just so many parts I didn't like about it, but I had fun anyway, I guess. And I like the porno scene too, because that was just like, we were sitting there watching like, what is going on here? Why? And it was distracting, but it was entertainingly distracting.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, overall, there's just way too many holes in the actual plot where it seemed like there was barely any, like, coherent plot to begin with. And I really dislike the whole, we love each other after, like, 2 days thing. So, I'm still going to give it a 6 out of 10, though. Just mostly off of the transformation scenes. Anyway, so, fuck it.
Okay, not much higher than me, but... Yeah.
No, that's why I was surprised.
Yeah. And for me, it's not like you guys are saying anything that I can disagree with. It's just the fact that I was not bored during it. Like, I was watching it, I'm like...
I wasn't bored either. I realized that there's problems everywhere.
Yeah, it's like, okay, yeah, I see problems. I'm never bored. Like, the movie moves at a very decent clip. And I get different, like, the different times stuff. I do like that the fact that this movie came out during a slew of werewolf movies, and it probably got the cult classic because it was kind of poking fun more or less, because it's not a parody, I mean, but it does have more fun aspects to it rather than, I mean, I liked that it basically has like comedic aspects to it, and that it's actually pretty funny, especially, you know, some of Jack's dialogue. I could have used a little less Nazi werewolves, because I think that just seems kind of weird. But I do like David as a character, as his acting and just his struggle of like, I don't know what's happening to me. I mean, I have my dead friend telling me to kill myself. I feel like I probably shouldn't kill myself, but I don't know. I'm starting to feel weird.
He's just jealous. He's dead and you're alive.
Yeah, I just expected them to play that song from MASH where it's like, suicide is painless. And it wouldn't have felt out of place at all in this movie.
Well, when you play Bad Moon Rising, you've kind of thrown subtlety out of the rule book there. Let's just go for it. And then, the practical effect work of just looking at like his victims that appear to him later. I'm like, oh my god, this looks great. The werewolf transformations, the werewolf itself after it transforms, Jack's slow progression into being more and more of a corpse. It's just, I'm like, man, this looks so fucking good. And yeah, I like Nurse Alex. Like, I like her a lot in it. There are just scenes that don't really add up and just kind of like, I don't understand why this scene is here and not like a further scene of David figuring out his monstrousness, or, you know, furthering his relationship with the nurse, or doing something with those kids in the fucking hospital if they're not like do something with them so that they relate to the story in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, no, they were only there to serve the character. That was it. There's no other purpose to put them in the movie.
I feel like this movie had a very different ending at some point. This movie had a different ending where the hospital was a mainstay, where he went to attack her at the hospital, and it dealt with the kids and the doctor and more of those sub-characters a lot more.
Could have.
That felt like it would make more sense to me, but then it feels like the movie ran out of budget as the movie was going on, because it just decides, like, during the porno theater thing, is just like, nope, time for the climax. Wherever we're at during this time is where the climax is going to be, because we're out of money.
That climax scene was actually really fun.
Dude, I love that climax scene, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it in the spoiler section, but first, I gotta give my rating, and yeah, I'm gonna give this one a little bit higher. So it's gonna be a 3.5. Let's say porno. See you next Wednesday theaters out of 5. And yeah, with that, we are going to pick our movie for next week. Although I'm not sure, we might have another guest flicks and kill next week.
Okay.
We might have another new guest. I won't say who it is because we're not 100% about it yet.
Ooh.
So yeah, we will. I'll keep that under wraps just in case it doesn't happen. But just in case that doesn't happen, Travis, do you have a movie?
I do.
You do have a movie. Okay. Well, what is it?
Well, see, I feel like we've picked a lot of bad movies by accident lately.
Yeah.
So you're gonna pick one on purpose.
Aha! I'm gonna pick a comic book movie.
Oh God, no! Please.
Yes.
I have a bad feeling about this.
We're gonna watch Spawn.
Oh no! That wasn't the worst thing you could have picked, but it was up there.
Wait, what was the worst?
I think Batman and Robin is still on Netflix.
Is it?
It might still be. I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't ever punish someone.
Spawn is not super far behind there, though.
You know what? I think Ghost Rider's still on Netflix too, so that would have been worse.
Ooh.
Oh yeah. I don't know. I think I'd rather watch Nick Cage than Spawn. I don't know. I haven't watched it in a while. Maybe my opinion of Spawn will have changed in the last decade.
I doubt that.
Maybe the movie will age. Man, I'm remembering some of that CG right now, and I'll tell you what.
This is gonna be fun.
I can't wait to hear John Leguizamo's crazy clown voice again.
Boy. And he was the best thing about that movie. My God. All right, well.
This is why we don't let me pick movies.
Yeah, we're going to do more guest flicks and kills. I've decided. But yeah, with that, join us next week for that. And if you're interested, stick around for the spoiler section where we're going to spoil American Werewolf in London. So for those of you who haven't seen it yet, I would highly recommend you watch it, at least for the transformation sequence. But with that, yeah, join us right after this small musical break.
I saw a werewolf with a Chinese menu in his hand, walking through the streets of Soho in the rain. He was looking for the place called Lee Ho Fooks, gonna get a big dish of beef chow mein. Ahoo, werewolves of London. Ahoo, ahoo, werewolves of London.
And welcome back to Netflix and Kill, spoiler section for American Werewolf in London. Okay, so where should we start with this one, guys?
He's a werewolf.
He
Ending sucks.
spoiler. He is a werewolf. We'll go from the porno theater on, because that's pretty much where the movie kicks into the third act, kind of out of nowhere.
And it's a pretty short third act.
Yeah.
So the his victims are like trying to talk him into killing himself to end the curse, because they're gonna walk the earth until he's dead, basically. There's not really any way out of it. The film hasn't really explored any ways for him to cure himself or get out of it in any way. So,
And they're very, very helpful about the whole death thing.
they are like, well, even Jack's just like, hey, should I hang myself? And Jack's like, you don't want to do that. You might hurt, like, might really be really painful. You might just choke if you don't break your neck. He's like, well, man, let him hang. Like, come on, he's my buddy. I don't want him to suffer. I do need him to die, but come on, let's be humane about it. So we get some stuff with the nurse and the doctor. Like, we cut back and forth, and when we cut back to the porno theater, suddenly he is changing again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, out of nowhere. It feels like we missed a scene in between or something, and like, because he is discussing ways like he could possibly kill himself. So he's like, I guess he's kind of accepted his fate at that point.
And then it just goes back to watching porn.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently that was a very long porn movie, too.
It must have been super long.
Well, it's Orgy Wednesday. They probably have multiple movies. Come on.
That was a fun horror movie though, because he just comes in and like one of the guys comes like, I thought I told you never to do something like this again. What I told not you, her. Wait, I've never met you before. Oh, excuse me.
And walks
away. I was like really confused. I'm like, what was that? What did that have to do with anything? But yeah, we get the transformation, and he starts to murder people inside the theater. We get the first time we get a cop that actually has a brainwave, because he sees the werewolf, fucks off, and then kind of closes the door behind him and like, hey, just for the love of God, everyone run!
But of course, no one does that.
Giant goddamn werewolf.
The theater.
It's like, ooh, there's a cop shouting. Let's go find out what's happening.
There's a cop trying to keep something from getting out of the porno theater. That's it seems pretty neat.
That happens every other Wednesday.
Yeah, so they're where are they in London? They're at the
I think it was a Piccadilly Circus. They said.
Yes, the Piccadilly Circus. That's right, and it's
Which
actually really.
I've actually been there, so I knew like when they would go to these places. I'm like, oh, I know there. I've been to that street.
Cool, and I think that they did shoot on location, and that's in an effort to remain authentic. And it's a very busy street in real life and in the movie, because when the werewolf pops out and rips the head, what was it, a cop that he ripped the head off of?
Oh no, it was just some random dude.
Yeah.
Although that was actually one of my favorite kills too, where it's just like, okay,
Oh, shit.
screw you, random dude.
And once there's a werewolf around, I love that the mass panic caused by there being a werewolf actually murders more people than the werewolf
Oh yeah,
does.
so many people get like run over and hit by buses. It's hilarious.
One guy gets pinned between a car.
Look, there might be some, a narrative like mismanagement of emotional weight at this end of this climax, but the climax itself, spectacle wise, is actually pretty fantastic. Of just everything. Just there's a double decker bus, kind of like almost turns over in the middle of the street. A dude flies out of said bus and gets run over by a car.
One person like falls backwards and backhands someone essentially through a glass door.
Yes, because he gets hit by a car as well. And it's just like, what? It's crazy. It's mass hysteria. So we get the werewolf. It gets a couple more people, I think, and then finally it runs down this alleyway, this dead end, and the cops are getting ready to, I guess, like go in and actually rally and develop a strategy. And their strategy is to shoot it a bunch. So
because that always works in horror movies.
Mm-hmm. This is like the one time it actually does. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Also, it's very true that policemen in London don't carry guns on them very often. So it's like, okay, it would seem absurd that no one would have shot it beforehand. But I'm like, oh yeah, London police officers. Okay.
In America, that would have been fast.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think they have way stricter gun control laws there too as well.
Let's face it, everywhere has stricter gun controls than we do.
Well, yeah,
We hand them out with our Halloween candy.
I got a Glock with my Milky Way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I really enjoyed the kind of visceral aspect of all these different kills and stuff. Again, just on kind of a I don't know, just a junky movie kind of drive. I did enjoy it.
Let's not forget the fact that the nurse shows up to try to talk him out of killing people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To talk to this wolf. And let's be straight, she doesn't believe that he's a werewolf up until the point she sees this giant...
And she doesn't even necessarily know it's him, because she didn't see anything. She's just assuming that it's him.
Well, like, for the longest time, she's convinced of the doctor's theory of just he's under the psychosis of everyone saying that he was attacked by a werewolf and him being on the delusion of being a werewolf, and that's what makes him go out and attack people animalistic style, which I guess is a rational enough explanation for him. It's like it would make sense to him.
Occam and your razors.
Yes. So yeah, the doctor comes up and does nothing.
Nah.
Like he does not do a fucking thing at the end of the movie. Like he doesn't even get killed. Like doesn't even there's like and so yeah, she tries to convince him because of the "I love you" speech, and he jumps up to attack her. and the cops
load into him.
Dude, the cops are actually super accurate this time. Like, they get the werewolf and not her. Like, they are super accurate for horror movie cops. And yeah, he turns back into a human, and he's dead, and
that's it.
Cut to credits.
Yep. Just the most awkward cut ever. Just like, okay, he's dead, and
bye.
No. Yeah. House lights come up. The theater's getting cleaned up.
No, because then the British version of the Men in Black show up and have to mind wipe everyone.
That would have been a better ending than what they did.
So, sorry about this. Totally sorry, but I'm going to have to neuralize you. Completely. I realize this might be inconvenient, but just hold on.
Not at all.
A wild American Yank was going through on a serial killer spree. You know, their guns and that such.
So yeah, again, if I take this in the context of an '80s film, where most of the time, you know, the happy ending sort of thing, and like this would subvert that trope, and we haven't seen, they probably, you know, they wouldn't be used to the whole hard cut ending of just like, oh shit, that was dark and
fucked up.
Yeah. I don't think it plays as well now because we've seen more movies do that. And for this one, it does have that tragedy because I do like David. I feel sympathetic towards him in his state. He never really does anything super wrong in it. He's not like
other than murder a bunch of people.
Well, his beast, but you know, he was afflicted with that. He was never like It's never like he really deserved.
It wasn't a choice.
Yeah, so you can get having sympathy for him, but it's just kind of like it does like. It's just like this movie was just like, oh, so there was nothing really to hope for in this movie because the friend tells him to kill himself the whole time.
Well, that's the thing. It's such a foregone conclusion that there's no weight to the moment you're like, oh, he's dead because we've been told.
That signifies the movie's over. That's about it.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's just no way he can. Like, the film never offers you a way he could possibly get out of it. So there's not really a lot of... the only tension there is just how many people he's going to kill before he bites it.
Right, yeah. And that still makes, like, the village really crappy people, like...
Yeah, they are... By the end of it, this plan... that village makes no sense. But then again, I guess they're done because if they have unless they have another werewolf over there, this should be, like, the last they ever hear of the werewolf, because they killed the other one. But yeah, it just I don't know. I gotta say that the ending did leave me a little bit cold on that one. I do get it. But with that, is there anything else we want to mention before we bring the spoiler section to an end? Because, like I said, it really, like, blink and you miss it, and where like the ending is just very fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I do have to say, this movie loves to show David naked. Like, multiple scenes of him positioning behind bushes, with a pillow over his crotch, showing his butt in the screen. Like, we get a lot of human body in this movie.
I think I saw a stat going around that David is naked through about 40% of this movie.
Wow.
Yep.
I believe it. Yeah.
A significant portion of his... He even removes his clothes during his first transformation sequence so he doesn't rip them. Like, I've seen the Hulk, I don't want to rip up... I want to ruin my clothes when I transform.
This is my favorite shirt.
I mean, yeah, I'm turning into a werewolf, but that doesn't mean that my shirt has to suffer.
And I mean, I get it on the one hand where it's like, okay, yeah, Animal House had a lot of naked women and not as many naked guys, so I guess it's balanced. But on the other hand...
So we have to have one naked guy all the time.
Yeah, no, on the other hand, yeah, 40% of his screen time is naked. That's a bit extreme, even by this standard.
Yeah, so, anything else anyone wants to mention before we wrap this up?
Not really.
No, really, yeah. We already mentioned, like, a couple of those kills were rad. Everything else is kind of like, well, that was an ending. Yep. That ended.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, is like, you can't really have a spoiler because there's really no ending. I mean, that's just what makes it so...
It just kind of ends.
Yeah, I get it. It's supposed to be pessimistic because most of Landis' films are kind of callous like this. You know, they're just kind of like, and this happened because of this. But at least, you know, say again, Animal House, I keep comparing it because there's a lot of similarities. That one had an ending. It was random. It was crazy. It didn't have a, actual resolution. But at least the story concluded. It ended in a more satisfactory way. But, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. just a reminder, I did enjoy this film kind of on a visceral level, and I get why it's a cult classic, and I do think it's worth revisiting just so that, like, if you're want to go to school for, like, you know, makeup design or something in, like, practical effects or something, I would definitely give this movie a watch just to learn from just, like, the look at that transformation sequence and
do that.
It's like this makeup, this design. I'm just like, I would definitely take that into your lesson, have that rattle around in the back of your mind when you're making, you know, your effects and stuff, because this it really is some of the best practical effects works I've ever seen in a movie such in the earliest of the 80s was and the budget couldn't have been huge, so I was very impressed.
If you want to find hot people and make them naked for most of the movie, I'm okay with that too.
No, and to be fair though, this movie did make me really want to watch another werewolf movie just to see how it compares. Like, for some reason, it made me really want to watch Dog Soldiers, if anyone's ever seen that film.
Dude, because I was just about to ask you what your favorite werewolf movie is, and because I was going to say.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say my favorite's Dog Soldiers.
Okay, now I need to add that on the list then. That might be good, so.
Dog Soldiers is so fucking amazing. That one is pretty light on plot as well, but it's like, okay, so Travis has never seen it either. No. Okay, so imagine a bunch of soldiers. They go out and on this training mission, and they're supposed to go up against these another group of soldiers. And instead of finding them, they find that whole other group of soldiers murdered viscerally by what seems like animals. And it's basically this squad of soldiers versus werewolves.
Okay.
And what's great about it is that they don't do any of the dumb horror movie stuff. They don't die because they do dumb horror movie things. They're soldiers. They, like, do smart stuff.
Right.
They die because they're fighting fucking werewolves.
That's fair.
So, yeah, and it's also, it has one of my favorite lines ever too. It was just like one guy screaming as he's getting eaten. He says, "I hope I give you the shit,"
which is a whole play on the whole Day of the Dead choke on it scene. So
yes, choke on it,
choke on it.
But yes, before we choke on it, we should let people know where they can find us. Again, you can always suggest for us a movie to watch on Netflix and kill through any of our social media pages.
If you want to interrupt all my terrible choices.
Yeah, if you want to alter, influence Travis's decisions a little bit, you can do that at our Twitter page, at Twitter, at UGO Podcast. You can give us a message on Facebook, maybe give us a like while you're there. You can email us at unapologeticgeekout@gmail.com. You can, if you really want to help out the podcast, you can subscribe to us on iTunes. Maybe give us a 5-star review while you're there. We will read it on the regular episode, word for word. If it's a 5-star review, that is my guarantee. Justin, where can the people find you?
Well, you can find me, lovely people, on Facebook at Justin Zarian. Occasionally on a Blue Bad Moon Rising on Twitter. And then you can find me at oneofus.net. I write the notes for the subscriber-only Breakfast Pub. For only $2 a month, you can get hours and hours of exclusive content where Chris Cox and his rotating crew comment on the week's news in a very entertaining fashion. And otherwise, you can find me here. And for those who are curious, I will be traveling down to Austin next month for the Double Toasted Anniversary Party. So you might see me there if you're in the area.
Yeah, that sounds like a grand old time.
Oh, yeah.
Well, with that, I think we will bring this episode to an end. Join us next week for either our mysterious guest flicks and kill, or Travis's pick, Spawn. So I know which one I'm hoping for.
Hey, you gotta watch Spawn either way.
Yeah. Not if I get like, okay, I'm just gonna try and get a guest every week for the next month or so.
Kyle doesn't count.
Damn it. Anyway,
I don't never get to pick a movie.
Hey, but you'll never have to watch Spawn, Justin. Think of the upside.
Fair enough.
But yes, join us next week for that. And until then, we're on Unapologists Geek Out, and we're out.